So now we've got a writing sample from Ringo. This is from the same period as the McCartney sample. Early days of Hamburg. He's got a lot of space between the words. Having a good time. Plenty. Look at how much space he's got there. This is a person who is independent and, maybe a little guarded, but at the same time, there's no periods anywhere in here. He doesn't end sentences with a period. And that can be a person who is not good at setting boundaries or doesn't really focus that much on boundaries. So maybe what it's saying is, as long as he's got a certain amount of space that he's comfortable with, he's not worried much about other boundaries. If it's a nice even pressure, he's got a firm garland. That's a demonstrative person who can be emotional, generally a helpful person. And easygoing. He omits I at the top there. It would be I arrived here, okay. I'm having a good time. So he doesn't say I, but he does have, and he also used the pronoun we. Ringo is showing himself to be somewhat selfless with this omission. His D is high and has a retraced stem, and there's a couple of them in there. That's a person who's independent and also who will not show hurt feelings. Look at the D on good is completely retraced. His T's there's a whole variety of them, but a couple with no crossings, I think, on the weather. That one's really interesting because there's no stroke leading into it. It just goes down, up, into the H. There's no crossing. But T's with no crossing are rebellious or careless or both. Then he's got some that cross to the right of the stem, like on Little Richard. So he's got one cross there for the two T's. That is impatient. Can be a person who's thinking ahead. And then he's got a little tiny one at the top of having a good time. It's just the smallest little cross. That's timidity. His G pulls to the right. Where is it? Okay, the G on having. He's got a couple, his lower zone stuff is typical of sexual repression. And it fits with, he's got some middle zone that's very small. Like this Y. Okay, so plenty to drink. Almost no middle zone in that word. The E looks like an I. It's so smashed, and then the middle zone on the Y is likewise almost non-existent. That is a person typically with no sexual focus, and it could be repression. It could be the situation they're in, but clearly, like that's as no middle zone as you can get. In the context of that sentence, it could be taken to be someone who is substituting alcohol for sex. What else we got? His signature. Okay, so on the first R, the R on Ringo is different from all the other R's in here. So we got Roy and Mr. R. Trafford and even the Little Richard R. They're all like the second one that he makes there, Ringo Ricky. But the first R is very ornate, and it's got these extra little things in it, and that I take to be a sign of a person who's kind of overthinking that name. That both of these are nicknames. If his birth name is Richard, then both Ringo and Ricky are nicknames, and out of the two, Ringo is the more, it's the showbiz nickname. And the difference in the way those two words are written, those two names are written, is really, really interesting. That he's got a lot of roundness and more legibility on Ringo than he does on Ricky. And again, on both of them, and this is his personal signature, on both of these, he's got the Y pulling off to the right. It's retracing on Ringo. It retraces the lower zone, but never opens up. And then on Ricky, it's hard to know if it's retracing or if it's actually coming up on the right side. Either one of those is sexual repression. There's a lot of desire, but nothing going on.